Tradition.
Creative.
Lively.
Vibrant.
Green.
Colorful.
Challenging.
Opportunities.
Friendly.
Inspiring.
Home.
Hello and welcome to the University of Bristol live clearing stream. Today can be a very exciting day, but it can also be a very stressful one. So we hope we can give you some advice on how things are going to go, how to make sure you secure your clearing place, and also what you need to do about things like accommodation and fees. We're very glad you can join us. My name's Glenn and I'll be your host today. So during the next hour, we'll be talking about clearing and adjustment. Whatever your situation is, this is a chance for you to find out more about the process and ask questions to our panel of experts and also a current student who can give it to you from a student's perspective. Feel free to ask as many questions as you like during the live chat and we'll try and answer as many as we can. Remember though that when you put comments on the live chat, other people can see what you post, so please don't put any personal information. So, if you'd like to ask a question via the live chat, you will need a Google account that has been linked to a YouTube channel in order to post a question. If you don't have a channel, you will have been prompted to create one when you signed into your Google account. However, you can also ask questions through the University of Bristol Instagram stories. Today's event is divided into 3 parts, each followed by a live question and answer session. We'll be covering the clearing and adjustment system, accommodation options at Bristol, fees and student finance. We're now going to watch a short video on clearing and adjustment before returning for a live question and answer.
Hi, my name is Antonia. I am an undergraduate admissions manager at the University of Bristol. I want to talk to you today about clearing and adjustment. So, what is clearing? Clearing is a way that you gain a place at a university after you've received your results. It's usually for those who aren't holding any offers because of a couple of reasons. That could be that you've applied late, that is after the 30th of June, you haven't received any offers, you've declined all your offers, or you didn't meet the terms of the offer that was made to you by your firm and insurance choice. So you will be in clearing automatically if any of those apply to you, and UCAS will show you your clearing number on your UCAS track page. Some institutions may ask you for that when you phone them. There is another way of using the clearing system. That's for people who maybe have applied for the wrong institution or the wrong course, and you think, actually, whilst I have got my grades, I don't want to go to that institution anymore. But if you want to use the clearing process via that method, you do need to contact your firm choice first, because they will need to release you into clearing to be eligible to refer yourself to another institution. If you have to go through clearing, don't worry. A lot of people gain their places through clearing, and they end up loving the subject and loving the university that they go to and make friends for life. So whilst it's a stressful time of the year, don't panic. It's all going to be okay. I'll talk you through the process. So there's a couple of steps that you will need to go through if you're going through clearing. Step 1, you need to check UCAS search tool and make sure that the universities have got vacancies. Also check the university's own website. That will all be listed there, what courses have vacancies. And just because you've applied to a university before doesn't mean that you can't apply to them through clearing. So if you might have declined their offer earlier on in the cycle, or they might have rejected your application during the cycle. But if you feel like that's the institution for you, you can phone them up to see if they've got any clearing vacancies. So if you can't find a course that you're looking for, you need to think outside the box. Think about what else can you study. Look around the joint honours programmes that the university may offer. As an example, if you applied for law, might you consider doing social policy, for example? Psychology, for example, might you consider doing childhood studies? So don't limit yourself to just one subject. Think about the other subjects that you can do and a combination of different subjects. And continually check the university's website, because we may have places that come and go. So most of the vacancies will be there first thing in the morning, and then we will close them as we fill up our spaces. So that's the first step. The second step is, once you know what course you want to do and what universities you want to actually phone up, you need to do the calling. Call the universities that you're interested in. Make sure that you have your UCAS personal ID number ready, as well as your clearing number, because we need to confirm your identity. Even though you might not have the grades that you expected, you may still be accepted by that institution. So you need to make sure that you have picked up your grades, because we will ask you for your grades. And don't worry if they're lower than what you think, they might still accept you. And even if you've applied to them for that particular course during the cycle, you never know, you might still get accepted. So it's worth a phone call to that institution. Speak to a variety of institutions, because you don't have to refer your application until 3 p.m. on results day. So find out what is available and where you would like to go. Most institutions will give you an offer verbally, or they'll send you a written offer. If the offer is verbal, make sure that you get a written offer. At Bristol, we will not make you a verbal offer. We will send you an email with the offer. So that's the second step. The third step is you going into UCAS and referring yourself to that particular institution. So if you've been offered a place at Bristol and you want to take it up, you need to refer your application to Bristol from 3 p.m. on results day. Once you've done that, you can sit back, take a deep breath, relax a little bit, but then you've also got to think about, have I visited Bristol? Would I like to visit Bristol? You can go on our web pages and look at the opportunities that we've got for visiting the university. You can also start thinking about accommodation and where you'd like to stay in your first year at Bristol. And if that hasn't worked out for you, if you haven't been able to find a place, don't worry, because you can always take your time, take a gap year maybe. Maybe you might want to resit your exams and apply again next year. So there's always options. So you don't have to rush to do everything on this day. But if you do know that you want to go to university this year, time is of the essence. So that is clearing in a nutshell. So you've got 3 steps. Hopefully those have been explained to you. So the other opportunity that you have is adjustment. So what is adjustment? Adjustment is where an applicant can look for a different course while still holding a confirmed place. So unlike clearing, there aren't any published vacancies. You need to check the university's own website as well as getting in touch with them directly. Your UCAS track page will tell you whether you're eligible for adjustment, but you have to register so that we're able to see your application and see what grades you have. So what are the eligibility criteria for adjustment? So your results must meet and exceed the conditions of your conditional firm choice institution. So as an example, if you're holding an offer for history at another institution, which is 2 A's and a B, and you receive your results and you get 3 A's, you may want to consider adjusting to Bristol for history if we have vacancies, because our entry requirements are 3 A's. So you've exceeded your firm choice and you've met our offer. So you must be confirmed at your firm choice institution. So you'll go from CF to UF. You must have paid the full application fee at UCAS, but if you've only done a single entry application, you can pay the additional cost at UCAS. Adjustment is available from A-level results day, which is the 16th of August, until the 31st of August. So what is not adjustment? So you aren't eligible for adjustment if you've been confirmed by your first choice, but you haven't exceeded the conditions of your offer. So as an example, if you have an offer for history, which is 2 A's and a B, and you get 2 A's and a B, you haven't exceeded the terms of your offer, so you are not eligible for adjustment. You are not eligible for adjustment if your place has been confirmed on a change course. So if you've applied for law and the institution changes your course to social policy, you're not eligible for adjustment. And if your original offer was unconditional in the first place, you aren't eligible. And if you're confirmed by your insurance choice, you aren't eligible either. I hope that tells you the distinction between when you're eligible and when you aren't. So in terms of adjustment, there are very finite timelines that you have to do things in. So I'll just talk you through those processes. Adjustment is available from A-level results day, which is the 16th of August, until the 31st of August. And your individual adjustment period will start from the moment you become unconditional firm or the 16th of August, whichever is later. You will have a maximum of 5 calendar days, that is 5 24-hour periods, to register and secure an alternative course. If you decide this is what you want to do, of course, your track choice page will show when your adjustment period ends. If you become eligible for adjustment after the 5 calendar days before the 31st of August, you will have 3 days remaining to go through the adjustment process. Hopefully that's explained the adjustment process a little bit to you. Good luck, and don't worry, there's always options.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that video and found it useful. I'm now joined by Lucy Collins, the Director of Home Recruitment and Conversion, and by Katie Bainton Glenn. Sorry, Katie. Katie's just graduated, and what was your subject, Katie?
I did virology and immunology.
Virology, and you enjoyed it?
Yeah, it was great.
That's fantastic. Okay, so we'll now turn to your questions. Don't forget, you can send your questions in at any point, and we'll try and answer as many as we can. Okay, I think this might be one for you, Lucy. Is clearing any different for international students?
No, the process isn't any different from international students to home students. You'd go to the same web pages to find out the information that you need. You'd have the same conversations with our admissions team, and the timelines work the same as well. There might be slightly different courses available for students who are coming through the international route to the home route, but the process is the same.
Yeah, so when you look on the website, just make sure that you click on the tab that either says home students or international, whichever applies to you. Thank you. Are there any opportunities to visit the university this weekend?
Yes, there are lots of opportunities. We're going to be running campus tours today, so Thursday, tomorrow, Saturday and Monday, and it's a really good opportunity to come down and have a look at the city, have a look at some of our facilities and get a feel for what Bristol's like.
Yeah, so it's well worth if you get the chance to. If you're looking at Bristol for the first time, thank you. And yeah, do come along and have a look around. Next question. Are there spaces left for September? Can I apply now? That's a good question.
Yeah, there are a few places, and the website is absolutely the best place to check to see where those vacancies are. At the moment, as I came in to the room, there were 49 programmes that were still open. They're mainly clustered in our arts faculty, so some modern languages programmes, and in science, particularly with chemistry. The situation is changing all the time, so it's really, really important to keep checking the website to have a look at the grades that we are asking for, and to phone into our call centre or send us an email.
Yeah, and those lists are being updated all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Just to clarify, with the second half of that question, it said, can I apply now? Presumably you're in the clearing system, in which case, absolutely look and see at Bristol and any other university you're interested in, what vacancies there are, whether or not you have the grades that they're asking for, and then make contact, give us a call. In terms of can I apply now for the first time, no. This period is just for people who have applied through UCAS and unfortunately not met the terms of their offer.
No, yeah, but I mean, if you are in that position of having not applied, then the new UCAS cycle starts in a couple of weeks, so you'll be able to do that.
And of course, you'd have plenty of time to sign up for the open day.
Certainly, you would.
And come and visit Bristol and make sure you consider us properly.
Yeah.
Okay. How long will it take for Bristol to decide whether or not to give me a place in clearing?
Well, we make the offers as soon as we can, but it varies from programme to programme. But you will be able to get a sense from that by phoning into our call centre. We do make sure that we are working through the process as quickly as we can, because we know people want to know, but it very much depends on which programme you're applying to through clearing.
Yeah, thank you. If I get an offer, how long do I have to accept it?
You have got 24 hours if you have been made an offer through clearing, so yes, that's the time that you've got to consider and make a decision.
The offer from Bristol will be made via an email after you've called the call centre. If you've met the requirements and there's still a place, you'll receive an email. Make sure you read that email really carefully, and that will explain to you how long you've got, the process you need to follow, and anything else you need to do. Although we'll be covering a lot of the things that would apply, the questions you might have later on in this stream to talk about things like accommodation and finance, but that will all be in the offer email. Okay. Katie, what has been your experience at Bristol?
It's been amazing. I joined the university in 2015. I was the only one from my school to come, and it was also my insurance choice university. So in the back of my mind, I wasn't actually really planning on coming here. But as soon as I arrived, I knew that this was the place that I wanted to spend the next 3 years. And I have loved every single minute. It has been the best experience of my life so far, and I would thoroughly recommend anyone who is applying through clearing or who is looking to apply next year to apply here, because as a university it is just incredible. The city is amazing. My course I found amazing, and there are not many things that I could say are bad about Bristol, which I guess is probably why I'm here.
Yeah, and she hasn't been paid to say anything. It probably is worth saying though that you know, this is a slightly anxious time. Lots of people like you, Katie, will have been thinking or expecting that they were going to one place and then they find themselves somewhere different. Try not to panic. If you haven't visited the city, do come and see us.
Absolutely.
Online, you can book onto the campus tours.
Yep.
You'll be shown around as much as we can by one of our current students who can share some of Katie's enthusiasm for Bristol. Perhaps if they either are on a similar course or know their friends, they might be able to give you a bit more about what student life is like. And don't panic too much. If you end up coming here because it was a clearing place, you're still going to have a great time. You really will. So, I think, okay, I'll start with this. This is a two-part question. I'll give you the first half, Lucy. Are people who go to uni through clearing treated differently?
No, they're absolutely not treated differently. Everybody who starts their course in September is treated equally, whether Bristol was your firm choice, your insurance choice, you came through clearing, it doesn't matter. You are a University of Bristol student and you will have a fantastic experience. And I think it's really important for people to recognise that. There's no tier of students at university. You're all here because you're very able students, because you want to study the subject that you are going to study. And the university, in making you an offer at any stage of that process, is absolutely confident that you have the attributes that are needed to be a really successful University of Bristol student. So the only thing to say really is that we are looking forward to meeting all of our students. There is no difference between any route.
And in fact, you would be probably the only person who you will encounter who would know that you came very
Absolutely,
clearly.
yes. It's not information that our academics would be given. It's up to you whether you share that information. But absolutely, there is no sense you'll be treated differently.
No, you will be a Bristol student.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
The second part of the question is, Katie, do you know any clearing students?
I do, but as Lucia said, the only reason I know that they're clearing students is because they chose to tell people that they were, and in my head that doesn't really mean anything to me because they were my course mates, they did just as well as I did, and all of my course and all of my friends from outside my course had a great time, and the fact that some of them had come through clearing had no impact on anything that we did. So yeah, I do know clearing students, but I don't think of them as clearing students at all.
And when you arrive, you'll arrive along with thousands of other people who are all going to be anxious and nervous and incredibly excited. And within minutes of getting off the train or getting out the car, you're just another one of everybody else and you're going to have a great time. So there's no problem at all. It's not going to make any difference. Okay. That's a tricky question. All right. Is it better to accept an alternative course through clearing or reapply next year? That's a hard one.
Yeah, and I think that's when a bit of sort of soul searching is required, because I think what really matters is that you are confident in yourself, and it is a decision that you have made as to whether the course that you have got an offer for is one you feel really passionate about, that you feel that you're going to be happy studying for 3, 4, 5 years. And we have lots of students who end up studying an alternative course than the one they originally planned on, and are delighted that they've ended up in a route they wouldn't necessarily have planned for themselves, and it can be a really happy unintended consequence. For other people, they will kind of have a sense as to whether it's not quite right for them. I think in those circumstances it's probably better to wait and reapply if you know that it's a subject that you might not get on with. But equally, if you think it could work for you and you're prepared to explore a new subject, 'cause it's normally a related subject that you would be made an alternative offer to, then actually it can bring you into a world that you didn't know existed and actually you find fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking shortly before we came on that the degree Katie has just graduated in wasn't the one that you started, was it?
No, I actually originally applied for neuroscience and quite last minute just decided that actually I knew that wasn't for me. And that was the best decision I ever made, because I'd spent the last 3 years studying something that I absolutely loved, and it made my life so much easier. So I would always recommend to people to study something that you know you're going to enjoy, even if you're not kind of 100% that that's the course for you. If you've got a gut feeling, actually you're going to love it.
Yeah. And we always say, I mean, we say from the very first sort of beginning thoughts in terms of what people are going to study. It's really important to know yourself, and it has to be your decision. It's not what your friends are doing, it's not what your parents think you should be doing, it's not what your school think you should be doing. You know what is going to interest you, and it's hard work, university, so you have to have that enjoyment of the subject in order to really flourish, I think.
And it's probably worth saying that lots of people will end up changing their courses or their interests will evolve, but if you're in that anxious, panicked clearing situation now, by all means make the university, and if you're lucky enough to get an offer, that's great, but then take your time and think about it and look into the course, and if you haven't been, come and visit, have a tour around, and give yourself a good chance to make sure that you're making a decision that you're going to be happy to live with potentially for 3, 4, 5 years, because there's never a guarantee about being able to change course. So just give yourself the most calm, informed choice that you possibly can. It's all going to work out, just stay calm. We're running out of time for this one, so we'll just have one quick question. Can I defer an alternative course offer and reapply next year for another course while I keep my deferred place?
No, is the quick answer. You can't have 2 live applications through UCAS running concurrently.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, actually, no, I think we've still got time for one more. If I get a place in clearing, will I have missed out on any preparation I should have done over the summer?
Your experience might be doing, as a general rule, no, I think.
Yeah. So when your place is confirmed, you'll be sent everything you need, and that happens at the same time for someone who's arrived at their place through clearing or who applied and this was always their firm choice.
Yeah, and there is still a number of weeks before term starts anyway, so if you want to crack on with learning all there is to know about your subject, you can start now.
Absolutely, and we know how many of you will be doing that. Okay, we're now going to watch a short video on our accommodation and how to apply if you secure a place with us through clearing and adjustment.
Hi, I'm Ashley James. I work at the Accommodation office here at the University of Bristol, and I'm here to give you a little bit of information about choosing accommodation now through clearing or adjustment. If you're now thinking of coming to the University of Bristol through clearing or adjustment, then there's still several accommodation options available to yourselves. First and foremost, we will reopen our online application the day after A-level results day, and whilst unfortunately we cannot guarantee to be able to place you into one of our residences, we will do our very best to do so. Now, hopefully the first thing which stands out is the range and diversity that we're able to offer you as students at the university. The way that our accommodation is structured into 3 distinct residential villages, each with their own unique characteristics, really does allow you to form your first year experience to best suit yourself. If you want to live in the centre of a thriving city and have its amenities and its nightlife on your doorstep, then our residential East Village is for you. And we have around 2,300 undergraduate bed spaces available to you, of which all are self-catered. If instead you want to live in a green and leafy accommodation campus, then our residential North Village is home to around 2,000 students. It's located 2 miles north of the academic precinct, but there's a dedicated student bus service there to shuttle you in and out of lectures every day. Now, the cost of that is included in the price of your accommodation, so you don't need to worry, there is no extra charge. That runs every 10 minutes at peak periods and runs into the night also. And in terms of the makeup of the residential North Village, it's a 50-50 split between catered and self-catered residences. Or, if you'd prefer something of a middle ground, both geographically and in terms of feel, then our residential West Village is for you. That's mainly based around the Clifton area and is home to around 1,200 undergraduate students. And it's close to a range of independent bars and restaurants, and we can offer 1 catered residence with the rest being self-catered. Each of our residences have their own website where you'll find all pertinent information. You'll also find an array of pictures and video tours for some. You'll also notice that if you scout around those pages, that each have their own unique characteristics also. Most notably, they'll range in terms of size, from small properties with 5 or 6 bedrooms to medium-sized residences of 100, all the way up to our larger residences, which can house up to 700 students. And aside from that, the most obvious distinction is that between catered or self-catered. Our catered residences provide breakfast and evening meals on weekdays, and breakfast and lunch at the weekends, with small pantry facilities there for the rest of the time. In terms of self-catered kitchens, you'll be sharing between as few as 4 students and as many as 16 to 18. However, obviously white goods, ovens and hobs will increase with the size of student size. All of our larger residences will offer dedicated student study space and social space away from individual bedrooms, such as this one here at the recently refurbished Colston Street, while most also offer a plethora of different offerings from niche sporting facilities to music rehearsal spaces. You'll also notice that the types of rooms we can offer in terms of shape and size can vary wildly, and also amenities. So we can offer ensuite rooms with private bathroom facilities. We can also offer rooms with wash basin facilities within the bedroom, but shared bathroom facilities outside of that. And we can also offer rooms where it's just completely shared bathroom facilities. We also have a very, very small number of studio apartments available, and shared rooms also, with shared bathroom and also shared bedrooms, which can be a great choice if the budget is tight. And all of our accommodation is underpinned by 24/7 pastoral care. The University Security Services extends to all of our residences, including the city centre, and our new 24/7 pastoral team is there to oversee the care of our students, and that means live-in chief and senior residents at residence, and also a head and deputy head of residential life for each of the 3 residential villages. In terms of the application process, you'll find that this is a diminished application in that we've already stripped out all residences we know to be oversubscribed, and it may only leave a preference between catered or self-catered residence type. This application will remain open until the end of August, with offers, if possible, going out in early September. Unfortunately, this is a constantly moving picture year on year. Whereas last year, and in many years recently, we've been able to make an offer of accommodation to all incoming undergraduate students, including those coming through clearing and adjustment. This isn't always possible. We also often have to utilise the need for temporary shared rooms, and that means students doubling up within a single room for an initial period until single occupancy rooms become available thereafter. And also, unfortunately, in some years, we're just not able to accommodate all incoming undergraduate students. In 2016, for instance, we found ourselves able to offer 190 of our 290 non-guaranteed students accommodation within university residences. However, there are still plenty of other avenues available. We have 2 dedicated private sector advisors within the accommodation office team, and they're there to offer support and guidance on where and how to look for private sector accommodation. As well as our own Finding Private Sector Accommodation website, we also have a website called accommodationinbristol.co.uk, which offers students the opportunity, via a message board system, to list any vacancies they have in private lets. And in the event that we weren't able to offer all students accommodation within university residences, we also run a house search event. This offers a 2-day bed and breakfast stay at one of our residences and offers the students an opportunity to get together as a group and look for private sector accommodation rather than alone. There'll be members of the accommodation office staff on hand to offer help and guidance throughout the 2 days, as well as our dedicated private sector advisors. We fully understand just how stressful a time this can be, especially with the start of university life quickly approaching. So please, if you do have any questions or queries, contact us by visiting our website at bristol.ac.uk/accommodation and using the contacts page. Thank you for watching.
Welcome back. We hope you found that useful. And I'm now joined by Ashley, who you saw in the video. This is Ashley James, our Accommodation Allocation Manager.
Hi.
Welcome. And Katie's still with us to answer any questions you might have from the student's perspective. Okay, it's a good, very pertinent question. Can I apply for accommodation if I get a place through clearing?
Absolutely you can. So our application form will reopen for clearing students tomorrow. If you're in the case that you've just missed the application deadline in the prior round is actually open right now, so you could log in and make an application. But for clearing students, it just takes that extra day for UCAS to update the university with that course details. So you'll be able to log on tomorrow and make an application then.
Okay.
What you'll find is it's a diminished application. So,
In what sense?
So you'll still be able to make 3 preferences, but they won't be resident specific any longer. So it'll be either village specific, so the North Village, East Village, West Village, or it will ask you for an ensuite on health grounds, or any catered or any self-catered. So it's a far less defined application, because we just don't know where we have spaces at the moment.
Lovely. This next question kind of, you've covered a bit, but we'll answer it anyway. What accommodation can I apply for?
So essentially you're going to be applying, like I said, for pretty much any self-catered or any catered, and then you'll be able to make a decision on which of the 3 residential villages might suit you best, and we'll do our very best to match that up with what we have available. It's a constantly moving picture from now for the next week, essentially, so we just do not know where we have spaces available at the moment.
I mean, I suppose fundamentally that actually ends up being similar to the way accommodation applications happen in a lot of universities. You're choosing the area of the city which you'd like to be in, and you're expressing your choice about whether you prefer to be catered or self-catered.
You are, yeah.
I mean, the thing is as well, it's wonderful how much effort Ashley and his team put into matching you to the accommodation that you've chosen. But fundamentally, I don't know if you can back this up, Katie, with yours or friends' experience, most people find that the accommodation they end up in is the one that they love. And I know people who didn't expect to go into halls and then found that halls offers the social life, the friendship and the support that means that becomes the only way they can imagine ever having lived. And then others will find a similar experience having gone into a flat, either with catered or self-catered.
Yeah, I think that's completely true. I was very lucky. I got my first choice accommodation. But I know so many people who were in the same halls as me. It wasn't their first choice. They didn't even, prepare to go there, but they ended up absolutely loving it. And it's the people that you live with that can make your experience. So I wouldn't worry massively about where you're going to be living, because there's so many other things that go on. This is just a really small part of the university experience.
But interesting, like you said earlier, that actually Bristol was your insurance choice, so presumably you had initially made an application for accommodation at your firm choice. You found yourself at Bristol and you still got your first choice, so...
Yeah, it was great, and because I came as my insurance choice, I had a much more narrowed selection of where I could pick, but everywhere that I did put on my list, I was more than happy to go and live there, and I got a great choice, and yeah, it all worked out really well for me.
That's fantastic. Okay, let's take another question. How are new accommodation applications dealt with? Is it first come, first served?
No, so it's not. So it's the same as first round application. So it's not the first come, first serve.
That's probably really reassuring for people watching this now who are panicking. They've just got their results this morning. That's already probably forced them to make some different decisions and look a bit more broadly, so they can...
You've got time to assess your
Take a
options.
moment.
Yeah, the application won't close until the 31st, so you've got that time to make a decision. Have a look at the website. All of the residences have their own website, so have a look at the villages, see a feel for what you want, and then make a considered application then. And then it's worked out exactly the same way as round 1 is, so it's prioritised in terms of a health need first and foremost, and then it's as random an application and allocation system as we can.
Trying to match as much as you can with what you've asked for, but obviously there's
within
finite
certain
number.
parameters.
There's a good question. One for you, Katie. Which do you think is the best accommodation for student life?
It massively depends on what you're looking for, and actually all of the accommodations that I've been to and that I know are available have their own kind of perks that contribute to a great student life. I lived in the city centre for my first year, and that was incredible. It was for me the best place I could have lived, because I wanted to be right in the middle of the city. I wanted, all of the restaurants and the shops like right on my doorstep. But that is not for everyone. Some people want the student life where they can live, up in Clifton, where it's quieter and you've got beautiful scenery, lovely old halls. So it massively depends on your preferences, and you've got catered and self-catered options, and that can massively contribute to your student life as well. So for me, I went self-catered, and that provided an extra social aspect of my first year, because I got to cook with all my flatmates and we were late together. So yeah, it hugely depends on what you want. I think any hall of residence you are in, you can have different experiences, but equally as great experiences.
That's really interesting. So for you, the accommodation that was in the flat and cooking and eating together meant that you got really quickly and close with your flatmates. By the same token, a lot of people who'll move into halls, and perhaps some applicants applying through clearing will have chosen, what's the word I'm looking for? Campus university. They might have been expecting to, looking to go to an entirely different university, not a city university, in which case they should then apply to Stokes Bishop.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to put a characteristic on an individual residence, as you've said, Katie. It's a lot better to look at it in terms of an area. So you've got the 3 residential villages, so the city centre where Katie lived, so you're looking at the residential east village, so that you're right in the heart of the city, so you know what you get in there. Stoke Bishop now, the residential north village, much more of a sprawling campus up there, a 50-50 split with catered and self-catered. And then the Clifton area, so the residential west village as it is there, slightly quieter, more integrated maybe into the local community, and you've got 1 catered residence and the rest are self-catered there. So there's very defined characteristics on the 3 villages, but not necessarily on the individual residences there, because the cohort changes every single year, and it's really you as the students that give those residences their personality.
But it's good to know you've got 3 quite
Absolutely,
different flavours to each of the 3 choices. There's another good question. Can I swap accommodation after I've arrived?
You can, yeah, absolutely. So if you're not happy with what you're allocated, we open a transfer system 2 weeks into term. So we don't open it before that. We allow people to try and bed in and try and get their feet under the table and to try and work, through the situation. Obviously, if there's a mitigating factor within those 2 weeks, then we will obviously consider it and come and see us at the accommodation office, and we can work through problems. But for the most part, we will open a transfer system after 2 weeks, and any rooms that become available, because obviously the nature of university life is that the rooms do become available, then it's an application system based on that. So you'll be sent a vacancy list as long as you're on the transfer list every single week, and you apply for 2 of the rooms available on that list.
So even if you should end up arriving, it ended up being a slightly rushed decision, or you felt like you got somewhere you weren't entirely happy, in just 2 weeks you're going to have the chance to apply for somewhere different, and maybe by then you'll understood better about which of the other villages or accommodation types might suit you. Lovely. There's a question. How likely is it I'd be in a shared room? And how do you match people who share rooms?
As a non-guaranteed student, so coming through clearing and adjustment, then highly likely, to be honest, that it's going to be a temporary shared situation at the moment. We don't have the full picture. We'll have a better understanding by the end of the week on how many spaces we have, but we usually err on the side of caution and say that for non-guaranteed students it's likely to be a temporary shared situation. That usually lasts about 6 weeks, so the designated rooms that are big enough to fit 2 beds, 2 storage units, 2 desks where possible. Otherwise they're in residences that are big enough to have social study space outside of the room as well. And then most students, if they still wish to then move after that into a single occupancy room, they are moved within about 6 weeks of the start of term. A lot of students find that it's beneficial to just stay in that shared situation, not least financially, because they're only paying half the rate for that room for the year.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
The second part of that question is, how do you match people who share rooms?
So you need to fill in as part of the application, you'll have to fill in a personal statement. It's an accommodation specific one, and we will do.
It's not the one that got you on the course.
It's not the one that got you on the course. So you'll have to do. We will do then our very best when we're rooming people to try and put people together with a similar interest, and that works for round 1 offers as well, or offers to students that aren't going into a temporary shared situation. We would try and put people in a flat or a corridor scenario with people of a similar interest.
But the shared rooms will always be with someone of the same gender?
It will, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I've never been to Bristol before. What's wrong with you? I've never been to Bristol before. What is the nightlife like? How did you meet people?
How did I meet people? I met people kind of just by accident. You kind of end up in situations where you just are with so many new people. So when you're moving in, you're bumping into people in the lift, you start to get to know the people who are living around you. You have I had taster lectures in my first week, so I was meeting people there. We would talk about the halls that we were in. And then there's kind of mixer, fresher events throughout the whole of the first week for all of the different residences. So if you go to those, you get to meet everyone who kind of is living in the same area as you, whether that's in a hall next door to you or whether that's kind of like in the same building as you. And and the university give you so many opportunities without kind of pushing you into it, to meet all of these different people from loads of different backgrounds, which is so nice because it just kind of feels like a natural process, a natural way of meeting people, rather than having to like force yourself to go up and talk to people. You just end up there, which for me was amazing because I wasn't particularly a fan of the thought of having to force myself to interact with people, and I didn't have to because it just happened. So
And
yeah,
you're going to meet people through your course,
Yeah.
you're going to meet people through your accommodation, and then in Freshers Week you're going to have absolutely thousands of opportunities to meet people who have similar interests, similar sports. Don't panic about that, you're going to make loads of friends. It's really easy. Okay, thank you both very much. Please remember to keep sending in your questions either via the Instagram or via the chat. And we're now going to watch a short video on student finance.
Hi, welcome to this presentation on government student funding and university support for students from the UK. This presentation is designed to help ensure that you've ticked off your to-do list all those actions connected with student funding, both in terms of applying for government funding and making sure you're aware of all the University of Bristol financial support which you may be eligible to apply for. If you haven't already applied for government support for the year ahead, then don't panic. You can apply for government loans up to 9 months after the start of term for the academic year you're studying. However, don't delay. You should make an application today for government student funding to ensure your application is processed as soon as possible. The easiest way is to apply online at www.gov.uk/student finance. You might not get all your student finance in time for the start of your course, but your funding provider will try to make sure you get at least some money as close as possible to the start of your course. But the sooner you apply, the better the chance of having all sorted quickly. Many of you will have already applied for your student funding already, and so I'll just briefly recap on the student support available from the government. If you've already been assessed for government loans, then you will have received a student finance entitlement letter, which will outline what you're entitled to receive in terms of a tuition fee loan and a maintenance loan. The tuition fees are set in line with government policy, and so in 2018-19, tuition fees will be £9,250, and the tuition fee loan you've applied for will be paid directly to the university. In addition to tuition fee support, eligible UK students are able to apply for a partially means-tested maintenance loan to assist with living costs. The basic non-means-tested maintenance loan rate is £4,054, but a loan of up to £8,700 is available depending on your household income. Any loan you've been assessed to receive will be paid to you in 3 termly instalments, provided you agree to accept the terms and conditions associated with those loans. If you made your application for funding after the 25th of March 2018, then you can accept the terms and conditions via your online student account using an electronic signature or e-signature. If you submit your online application before the 25th of March, please be aware that you will have to print, sign and send your funding provider a declaration form to accept the loan terms and conditions. You will receive your first payment of maintenance loan up to 5 working days after you've completed registration during Welcome Week. Make sure you've provided your correct bank details for the bank account where you want the money to be paid. If your funding provider does not have your correct bank details, then it will delay the money being paid to you. There are also a variety of allowances and grants which you may be eligible to receive depending on your personal circumstances, such as having a disability or care of a child. Your student finance notification letter will confirm what additional money you may have been assessed to receive and confirm the payment dates. Unfortunately, not every application for student funding goes smoothly, especially if you have a complex set of personal circumstances or study history. If you have any queries about government support, you should call your appropriate student funding provider to get any issues resolved as soon as possible. However, if you have any ongoing concerns about your government funding, then call the Student Funding Office so we can assist you. A web link to our contact details can be found at the end of this event. We'll be able to give you advice and guidance on your particular query, and if necessary, we can call your student funding provider using a dedicated practitioner phone number to help resolve any issues. If the issue may take some time to resolve, we can set up consent to share on your funding account. This will enable us to call up your funding provider at a later date to check on the progress of your funding application. If the delay to any funding is causing you any immediate financial concerns, at the start of term, say for example being able to afford some money to pay for food, then come and see us in the Student Funding Office. We're likely to be able to provide you with an interest-free short-term loan of up to £350, and the repayment date would normally be due when the government student finance is expected to be paid. In terms of university bursaries, hopefully you already have an expectation of which scholarships or bursaries you might be eligible to receive and, where necessary, have already made an application for funding. Some bursaries, such as our main university bursary, you do not need to apply for. If you fall within any of the household income thresholds and meet the eligibility criteria, we will generate the award for you at the start of the academic year. If you've not already done so, do take some time to review the scholarships and bursaries available in our A to Z funding search at www.bristol.ac.uk/fees-funding/search to see what funds you might be able to apply for. As with all bursaries and scholarships which are available, please do take the time to read the terms and conditions carefully and check your eligibility, and get in touch if you have any queries. If you do have any funding issues when you start your studies, or think you may struggle financially, then contact the Student Funding Office. We administer the university's hardship fund, so come and talk to us about making an application. Here are a few websites to help you do some further research on funding. And please don't forget to follow us on Twitter. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back again. We hope that you found that very useful. We're now going to go to the panel for the final question and answer session. Katie and I are now joined by Matthew Semple. Welcome, Matthew.
Hi.
Who is the Student Funding Manager. Please keep sending your questions and we will try to answer them all, which in actual fact we will just revisit a question from the last Q&A which we didn't get round to, but it's a good question, so we'll look at this first and then go on to student finance questions. The question was, I'm vegan, should I go self-catered or catered? Well, I'm fairly certain if you are vegan, you'd be better off going self-catered because the halls, the catered accommodation can't guarantee vegan food. They do vegetarian food, and that's also the case if you are if you need a halal diet. You're probably better off choosing to go self-catered. But in either situation, Bristol is a really good place to be a vegan and to be a vegetarian and to be cooking and looking after yourself. I don't know, do you have any vegan or veggie friends?
Yeah, so in first year, the whole of the rest of my flat was vegetarian. Because we all cooked together, I actually ended up being vegetarian for my first 2 years of uni anyway, because it's cheaper, it's easier if you're eating together. Yeah, and I know so many other people who are vegan and vegetarian and actually have a better diet in Bristol than meat eaters do, because there's so many different options available. It's a great
It really
place.
is a city that's going to cater for all your needs. Loads of shops, cafes, restaurants will make it very easy for you to make those choices. Okay, thank you, Katie. Matthew, we're now going to turn to a finance question. If I apply for a scholarship, when will I find out if I've got it?
Okay, well, most of our scholarship applications have probably already closed because they take place sort of earlier part of the year. There are a few scholarships that are still open. If you've applied for something and haven't heard yet, then you will learn before the start of term. What we do with our bursaries though, which lots of students are interested in at this time of the year, our bursaries, our main bursary, the University of Bristol bursary, is there's no application form for it as such, because students get awarded those bursaries from the information we hold on them that's passed to us by the student loans company. So you're, as a student coming to Bristol, whether you come through clearing or whether you've not come through clearing, your eligibility for those sort of bursaries will be assessed on the data that the student loans company have already captured for you. So your application for your loan, for tuition fees and living costs will be all you need to do.
Great. And that, quite a lot of students receive
we've
the
got
University of Bristol bursary.
Yeah, we've got quite a high percentage. Yeah, for home UK students, it's approximately 25% of the undergraduate cohort will receive some form of bursary.
Great, lovely. Well, this might relate to that question, since that bursary is calculated from the application for funding. Someone's asked, when is the deadline to apply for funding?
Okay, ideal time to apply has probably already passed, so hopefully most people at this situation now have already applied for funding. But the deadline, the ultimate deadline, is the end of May, and that's next May. That's not the May that we've just had. However, if you wait that long, the money that comes through from the student loans company for like living costs will be delayed. So what we'd urge people to do is apply as soon as possible if they haven't done so already, and that will enable the student loans company to release their living cost loan and for us to assess them for their bursary as soon as possible, so they don't miss the payment dates.
Obviously, a lot of people who are going to be applying to Bristol through clearing will have presumably made an application for funding expecting to go to a different university. Does that affect their fees, their maintenance loan or anything when they arrive at Bristol through clearing?
Right, so yeah, that's a really good point actually. Students who have applied already for funding and thought they were going to another university or was hoping to go to another university, it's quite straightforward to contact the student loans company and inform them that you're coming to Bristol instead, and those people are in quite a strong position, and that's quite easy for the student loans company to swap over your university. The tuition fee side of it makes very little difference because most of the universities charge roughly the same amount, either 9,000 or 9,250, and all students home UK students and EU students will be entitled to that full tuition fee loan. Where it might be slightly different is if you thought you might be going to a London university, and instead of going to a London university you've now come to Bristol, which is outside London, and the living cost loan is slightly different for coming to Bristol.
But on the upside, you're living in Bristol. And
Absolutely.
it's also cheaper than London and better than London, but that's obviously, we're biased, so here's a nice question. Are jobs available for students during their first year?
Yes, there are loads of job opportunities. So you obviously have like the standard part-time jobs in all of the shops and the restaurants around Bristol, but the university offer loads of part-time work opportunities for students, and they are super flexible, and because you're a student they understand that you have studies and you've got other commitments, so the work is really flexible. The pay rate is great as well for a lot of the jobs, which helps. And the work is really fun. I've done it since I was in my first year, working on the open days and going out to UCAS events and doing all kinds of fun stuff for the university, and that actually for me has contributed equally, if not more, to my university experience than the academic side of it ever did. So yeah, I would 100% recommend getting involved, even if you don't need the money. Get involved in working with the university or around the city because it's amazing.
She's not going to blow her own trumpet, but Katie is one of the people who goes out to schools and colleges. You mentioned the UCAS events and does what you can see here, shares her enthusiasm for Bristol, talks to people who are in school and college now and thinking about where they're going to go. And I think you found it a really good way to supplement the income at the same time as making new friends, doing something that's really good for the CV. There's lots of opportunities, lots of things to do.
So much to do, and it is amazing for the CV because you get to learn so many different skills that you wouldn't learn through your course. You get to learn kind of communication skills and people management and teamwork and all of the kind of stuff that academically you don't tend to come across as much. So yeah.
There is a big range both within the university and outside, and a lot of you will need to work, a lot of students do need to work, and they can manage. It's possible to do it, keep on top of the studies, still maintain a social life, and also actually earn some money to help with the costs. Which lends us very nicely to our next question, which is Bristol an expensive city to live in? I mean, it's a bit of a piece of string kind of question, isn't it?
Yeah, it massively depends on your lifestyle and whereabouts in the city you're living. I managed to get by really easily in my first year. I was working part-time, I had my funding help as well, so I was never short of money my whole time at university. But there are places in the city that can be quite expensive. Particularly when you're moving out in your second and your third years and you're looking at paying rent and you're looking at all these things, it can be quite daunting and you can think actually that's a lot of money to be spending on things, but it's all, you have to look at it in perspective and you decide what you want to spend your money on. If you don't want to go out every night and you don't want to kind of be buying food and drinks outside all the time, you don't have to. there's no obligation to do that.
And, and again, I mean, Ashley mentioned the range of accommodation we have. If you're worried about money, and it, you know, as Katie pointed out, it's going to be quite different in your second or third year once you've got used to it, once you've made the transition from home. But if you are unsure about money and it's a preoccupation, then look at self-catered, because you can save a lot of money that way. You can eat relatively well and try and avoid living on beans and toast, and do so while not spending a fortune. And as you said, make choices to cook at home and then go out, rather than to go out and spend money in restaurants.
Also, it really helps if you're in self-catered to cook with the people you live with, because you can cut costs massively that way, which is what I did. So.
And then every fourth meal, you know, you cook and the rest someone else is doing. So that's great.
Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. There's a good question. Will my student finance provider pay my accommodation fees direct to the university?
No, they won't. No, the only direct payment is for tuition fees,
right?
And the living costs part of the loan comes straight to you as a student into your bank, and then the university issues an invoice which is online for students to settle up.
Okay.
And those invoices are issued via the university's portal, and students can opt to pay them in one go or split them into 3 instalments for accommodation.
Okay, so in that unlikely event that someone hadn't applied already, they do the application and then the fees are taken care of, but they're still waiting for money that's going to be the money they're going to subsist on, and also will need to pay for accommodation. Is the university patient? Do we understand that they're still waiting?
So the first instalment for accommodation is not due until the 24th of October.
Right.
So there's a little bit of time there anyway, and would imagine that majority of students would have their funding through by then. But if you're finding that funding is delayed from your student finance provider, do come and speak to either someone in the student funding office or someone in the income office, and they'll be able to postpone the due date for that first invoice whilst you're waiting for the funding to come through.
Can you also pay it early if you've got the money?
You can pay it as soon as it appears. I think it'll appear in September, end of September.
Which could also be a good idea, so that you then
budgeting.
Can't spend it. Exactly, that was exactly what I was thinking. Is there any help if I struggle financially when I arrive?
Okay, that's something that we offer in the student funding office. We have a financial assistance fund, which acts as a safety net for students that are having financial difficulties. First of all, we offer from the financial assistance fund, we offer a short-term loan, which students can come in and borrow up to £350 very easily and very quickly. But we also have the financial assistance fund, which is a grant rather than a loan, and students can come and apply for that every year, and awards can be made up to £4,000 per student each year.
Right, oh, that's good to know, good to know. One quick question, I think, before we have to wrap up. How do you balance study with part-time work and a social life? Kate?
That's probably the hardest part of university. I think it actually tends to work out okay in the end, because times where you've got loads of work to do for uni, so when you're writing your dissertation, when you've got exams, the uni, if you work for the uni, are really understanding and they'll let you take some time off. Part-time work outside of the university, they also, because it's a student city, they get it, you've got studies and stuff to do, but it's just kind of keeping track of your own time and being sensible. It's nice to have a lot of money, but actually you're here to study, you're here to get a degree, and you have to put that first sometimes.
And there's lots of support from the wellbeing and from the counselling services to help you do things like just managing your timetable, knowing when you need to hand in a piece of work or prepare for an exam, and managing your time accordingly. With all these things, it can feel a bit more panicked and stressful to be thinking about this at the last minute, but trust us that thousands of students go through this every year and they manage it, having a great time along the way. So, I'd like to thank Matthew and Katie for joining us, but also Lucy and Ashley, who are no longer here. I hope this event has answered some of the questions that you may have had. There is another event tomorrow, so should you find that you have some specific questions you'd like to ask us that you haven't again, you can tune in from 2 o'clock tomorrow. A recording of this event will be available online if you'd like to rewatch it, particularly if there's any details in those little video clips that you missed, you can go back and watch them again. And as I said, tomorrow at 2 o'clock we'll be joined by Ashley, Matthew, Katie, again, thank you very much in advance, and by Tilly, our head of residential support. Thank you very much for watching. And again, stay calm, don't get panicked. It's all going to work out. Good luck.